Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. Having completed and having resolved not self into the self, or should we say mithya into satyam, we now need to continue the inquiry and apply this to the world. Yesterday we used the clay and pot example, a common example in Advaita, very telling and very visual example. And we talked a lot about analogy. And now this analogy, we have to tighten this a little bit further, and we have to make it valid for you and valid for everyday experience. So naturally, and that's the next step. And so the next step will be another major topic that we are entering into, and that is the topic of Maya. And this will also answer several important questions that might come up as a product of having gone through the prior teaching. And so, this Maya will explain, if you say that there is only one unchanging cause, Brahman, and it never wavers, then how do you have a changing universe come out of an unchanging cause? And some people will use this who are against Advaita, and they will try to make Vedanta wrong using this simple argument alone. And when a teacher sees this, this is like kindergarten. Like you're writing I saw a thesis written by a PhD professor in philosophy saying Advaita is wrong on the basis that you say there is an unchanging cause called Brahman. And by definition, if Brahman is the cause of the universe and the world is an effect of that cause, then if the world is moving, that movement that must be inhering in its cause. So thus the cause must too be moving, changing. Therefore, Advaita is wrong. And I read this, obviously they title this with their name, because you have to write a PhD thesis. This is part of PhD. And I'm reading this. This is like written, with respect to the intelligence of this guy. It's very simple, a very simple argument that is not a problem for us at all. Now, of course, by the time you develop that shraddha, you're not even worried about these things. You're just following the program little by little until the whole vision takes place. But if I don't have that shraddha, that provisional trust in the teaching, in the teacher, then I'm not going to listen. And that's just how it is. Even if you write a counter argument to what this man has written, he's not going to read it because you've written it, you've taken a week or 2 weeks to write it. It's all provided with citations and excellent grammar. I don't want to risk my career. So that becomes another issue now. My career is on the line. I cannot accept the truth. You have a counter argument, I don't want to hear it. I took 2 or 3 weeks to write that report, that Advaita is wrong. But in Advaita, we don't care who's right or wrong. We just care what is the truth. The center of this course is not about who's better or worse. The center is the truth. And this is why we started with Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu. Ma Vivishravahai. We will not quarrel. Because quarreling is just not seeing the whole argument, it's not seeing the whole picture. So we don't care about who's right or wrong. End of the day, do you really care about who's right or wrong? No, you just care about living aligned to the truth. That's all we really want, end of the day. When all is said and done, when all that young energy, that rajasic energy, that, let me show you, when all of that is gone, end of the day, when the person just come to their senses, They're no longer writing these YouTube comments. Here, Advaita is got making mistake. This rope snake, there's an entire era to this. There's a rope snake article on my website. And there's a guy, a teacher from Advaita. He's so adamant in providing a counter proving the whole rope snake incorrect, because rope snake is the essence of Advaita, how superimposition, and you see that superimposition and you're mistaken it is reality, but underneath is the actual truth. Because Advaita, the whole point of Advaita is the world is real. So for them the snake is real. So now naturally you engage in confirmation bias, you engage in logics to support your Advaitic argument. I don't even respond to this. That's how I handle it. I don't respond to this, because if you are taking that much time and effort to provide logics to prove Advaita wrong, then you're very invested in the vision of duality. Like I said yesterday, what's wrong with duality? What's wrong with non-duality? What is wrong with it? What is wrong with one holistic being? Let me ask you a question. Do you want to be a divided, a disintegrated being with multiple standpoints in yourself who are not agreeing with each other, who are all against each other? Or, common sense, do you want holistic beingness, which is communicating with each other and there's no disagreement? You are at one with things. There's no disintegration, disharmony in yourself. Which one makes more sense in common sense without philosophizing? The latter. See, this is the latter. It's common sense. So this is what Vedanta, Advaita is about. Just common sense. We're not interested in getting into this philosophical debate, because end of the day, all I'm doing is I'm taking my Vijnana Maya Kosha, identifying with it, providing maximum reasoning out of it, and trying to get a kick out of it. You know, logic versus logic. I'm just getting a kick out of my Vijnana Maya Kosha. We don't fall for this. So the best way to deal with these major disagreements and arguments, which will never end, by the way, you've got many schools, you've got Vishishtadvaita, Vaishnavism, ISKCON, all of them will be, you'll find, if you really investigate into it, go to Udupi, because that's the center of Dvaita, by the way, and ISKCON. You know, and I've also seen the hatred towards this non-duality. Like, why? What's wrong with being an integrated being? Perhaps you are disintegrated yourself. And so naturally, this is what you project outwards. Therefore, I want a disintegrated system because it suits my own understanding of myself. I don't want my parts to die, because to integrate, you require a certain death of division. And I am that divided being. And I don't want to, being identified with it, I don't want to die. So essentially, the whole attraction for this duality really is not about philosophical debates. It's really about one's inner psychology. So what does one say? Go and first take care of your inner psychology. Go and become an integrated human being. Learn to exercise compassion and empathy in this world. Learn to, be someone that is able to follow one's word. What I say is what I do. Even that alone, just one thing, arjavam, a value from chapter 13. Arjavam, I don't have straightforwardness. That means what I say, I do something different. I'll see you, even something like this, I'll see you later. But I'll never see you in my life. You see how we give ourselves away? It's very innocent. We pick it up from culture and we speak like this. But that contributes to that division inwards. And that division, and that's just one little example. Now you add thousands of those, and no wonder I'm into Dvaita. Because I'm a disintegrated human being. Therefore, I look for disintegrated systems, and they make sense to me. And then I fight for them because that is who I am. That's why it's this pointless trying to argue this. Because you are not arguing in the name of philosophy, you're arguing in the name of a disintegrated psychology.
how can I be the special one? I have worked for so hard if all are one.
I've worked so hard to be the special being with my own views. I'm not going to let you blow my cards of deck down. I've been building my deck cards my whole life. It's been like this. This game? It's like, hey, move aside. One little wind, one little challenge collapses it. And this is why Advaitin can be so loud. Because I need to keep on reinforcing that this idea is true. It's true because something inside me says there's more to this. You see, the truth is very quiet and stable. That which is untrue has a need to be loud. The truth is eternal. It doesn't worry about concern.
When it comes to, in the end, if it's true, I will get there. It's going to happen anyway.
It's going to happen anyway.
It's going to happen anyway.
Because truth always wins. Jayati, it's that which conquers all.
It might be going like this, but then it will happen anyway.
But to be able to grasp this unity, totality, is this what you said before? First you need to become the real human being.
Yeah.
A human being with compassion, all these things. After you are able to grasp the unity and totality.
This is why we started the entire first 25 verses with all these qualifications. You see, this is not only just about 25 verses, this is about showing you how life works. It first works with these, not that there is a first, but there is an importance to the 25 years, right? For example, of becoming an integrous person, an honest, integrous, sincere person. And sometimes I will notice, this attitude, like, what's the problem? Why are you so against this? Why can you just not be okay with your Advaita system? If it was the truth, you would not care about having to opinionate and fight against. Isn't that true? When you're at peace, when you're at ease with what you know, you simply do not think about other things because you're at peace. Only when I'm not at peace, I have a need to, because there's a disturbance. Lack of peace equals disturbance. Disturbance equals action. Disturbance equals a loud mouth, a loud voice, a loud need to go out and say something. So just the behavior alone of having to argue another system, that alone, stop right there. That alone tells you everything. You don't have to go further.
So what was the motivation of Adi Shankara to go to all this debate?
Good one. Yeah. So what was now the motivation of Adi Shankara? So you see, it's the same motivation as it is today. Swami Paramarthananda said once, he said that in the Vedic times, we used to teach Dharma Shastra, right, the ways of conduct to the audience, to everyone, Dharma Shastra. What's the right thing to do and what is to be avoided, and the values of life. But Vedanta was a very niched teaching, to those who are extremely qualified. Niched means, what's another word? It's minority. Okay, those who are ready for the knowledge. Now then, if that was the case, then why do we have so much Vedanta popularity today? And he said because there are other systems, other knockoffs, which are drowning out the voice of Vedanta. And so what do you have to do? You have to do something to bring it back. Otherwise, if you keep on niched, then it gets drowned out by this and this and this, and it's all incomplete. So the same thing with Adi Shankara, the voice of truth gets drowned out to the point where it's so in the minority that it affects the future, and it's hardly even now comes out because it lost its momentum. Once it reaches that crescendo of momentum, when it lost that momentum, it's next to impossible to bring it back. And we of course had cultures, from previous history where they got lost entirely. We don't even know about them. I can't tell you what name they are because I don't even know, because they haven't survived. So there's a certain responsibility to observe, hey, this, in the light of my clarity is incorrect. So I have a duty to engage myself, if that is your personality, of course, to show that, no, your view is clearly wrong. Let me show you a view that is, different. And so you can decide for yourself now which view you think is right. So that's also part of it. Yeah, otherwise, it's a good argument, because now you would say, well, maybe he, was dissatisfied with Advaita, therefore he wants to teach Advaita to others. But this is a different context. Yeah, you have to bring back the truth. Just like if your son or daughter, who you care about, was following some cult that is not healthy, then you eventually, as a parent, would step in and you will announce, suppose you have a family of 100 people, you would announce that, hey, let's sit down and let's talk through if this system really makes sense. So that's the duty of the tradition. So, having said that brief introduction, now let's go into the Maya teaching, verse 31. You're going backwards. Avyakta namni paramesha shaktihi anadya vidya trigunatmika para karyanumeya sudhiya eva maya yaya jagat sarvam idam prasuyate. That Maya through which this whole world is born is called avyakta, unmanifest. So Maya is unmanifest and is the power of the limitless Lord. We have to now analyze what is the Lord here. She is the beginningless ignorance of the nature of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Her existence is to be inferred from her effects by a person with a clear mind. By her is this entire universe that you're experiencing now is projected. So there's a lot of points here that we have to go through. Now let's start with what is the purpose of Maya teaching? Why are we going through it? Why is Maya, another word for Maya is Prakriti, we talked about this, but here I'll use the word Maya. So what's the purpose of Maya's teaching? See, like I said, there's this universe that's changing and modifying, and if the consciousness was the true cause of this changing universe, then as you know, for any cause to manifest as many, if there's one undifferentiated cause, and if that one undifferentiated cause manifests as many, then you can't find that cause anymore. You wouldn't find consciousness anymore, because consciousness has now manifest and split itself into 10 trillion things. So by this, if consciousness was the true cause of the universe, and the universe having divided itself into many, then you wouldn't find consciousness right now. Because consciousness changed. It went... Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Remember, it has to be unchanging for it to be known right now as unchanging. But the world is constantly changing. So if consciousness was the constantly changing world, there's no way to relate to that which is unchanging. The way to explain how you can have an unchanging, and from that comes the changing universe, Maya, you have to bring Maya teaching into account. This is how to solve it. And Maya is understood as power of consciousness. Now I know immediately you're going to say, so it's an attribute of consciousness. No, no, no. Remember, a Satya Mithya teaching, is pot an attribute of the clay? No. What do we say that Mithya pot is? We said it is nothing but Satyam plus form with a name. But is it an actual addition? Is the pot an actual addition? No. Thus, We cannot say that Maya is an attribute of consciousness. Make sense? How do you understand that you can have one unchanging cause from which comes a changing universe? And so we introduce a simple example, and I've already prepared you with this example of the dream. You have one I who remains unchanging. One conscious being in the bed remains unchanging. And from this being is projected a changing mountain, a changing person, a changing storyline, a changing universe, manifests space and time with laws, with actual gravity, with actual physics, that when in the dream you hit a wall, you feel solid. Even though the whole thing is just a projection of your mind. Your mind projects an amazing world of solidity. So your mind is just knowledge, isn't it? It's just memories, impressions. So from those impressions, which are just knowledge, it's just memories, from those impressions manifest a solid world. Interesting, isn't it? Your mind is nothing but information, knowledge, concepts of what took place, of what a tree looks like, of what a person looks like, of what your friend who you've met somewhere looks like. It's just memories. Now, can you give a concreteness to a memory? Can you like take your memory out there and put it into a concrete form? Can you do that? If you know, for example, I say to you, imagine a tree, and you imagine a tree. Can you take that tree out and put it here, please? You can't do it. And yet that very tree in your dream has solidity to it. You can't walk through it. That's the power of your mind. It takes mere knowledge of your mind. The mind takes its mere knowledge and impressions and memories, and it creates a physical, tangible universe which you are then completely convinced is real. And then you act and suffer and cry and talk about and work for desperately to make work. That little character now, who's also manifest from your mind, now works his whole life or her whole life to make his or her life work. And they improve themselves, and they go through marriage, and they go through divorce, and they have children, and they go to classes and so on. All of that from the power of your own mind. And you are totally inside that entire storyline. You're a participant, you're fighting for it to preserve it, and you're afraid of dying out of that storyline, and you celebrate someone's birth in that story. The whole thing, a story, a lovely story, created from no more than the knowledge in your mind. If someone tells you it's not real, you will dismiss them. And then you have two people in that dream, all created from your mind. One of them says, this dream arises from the one cause. Another person says, no, this dream, you are one person, and the creator of this dream is another person, and he's over there. And when you die, you will then merge with him. And then another character starts a religion, and now dream characters follow that religion, 2 million of them sometimes, and then 1 billion of them, and they all worship this Lord who is somewhere out there. And they say, where's the Lord? The Lord is out there, and we are small, and we need to propitiate him. And this is a real storyline. It's as real as this. And you're thinking, this is how it is. This is all there is to the world. And so there are these subjects who are all speaking about and philosophizing and wanting to make this dream work. And they realize no matter what they do inside the dream, it doesn't work, because the dream itself is mithya. And mithya doesn't last. It's changing, it's dependent, it's perceived. And they want to desperately make the dream work, but they can't. And then the dream guru comes up and says, oneself has a power called Maya to manifest this entire universe that you study and you look through the telescope and the microscope and you write books about and you author and then you claim you're the author of this and you take a certain role in this universe and you're having a lot of fun, I get it. But there's one self from whom comes this power. And this power projects the entire universe. And you right now are one of those projections. So is this one. So is this one. So is the sound. Everything is a projection of it. Now in Sanskrit, the conscious existent being we call Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Vivarta means, okay, I'll just say Karana, cause, Upadana, material cause. What kind of a material cause are you, that conscious existent being? One who seemingly changes but doesn't change at all. You're the material cause because the whole dream depends upon you, the existent, awareful being, doesn't it? So what is the cause of the material of that dream? Ultimately, it is you. Without you, there's no dream. Okay? So you are that seemingly changing, not actually changing. So I'll put seemingly changing. Because you see yourself as this one subject in the dream who's seemingly going through life, who's seemingly changing, who's going through birth and death. But now your mind, so if the self, Brahman, is Vivarta Upadanaka. Your mind, in this example, we'll say is Maya, is Parinami, Upadana Karanam. Same, so your mind is also a material cause, but what kind of a cause? It's Parinami. That means it actually is constantly shaping and shifting. Remember that example of the mind of the Play-Doh? So though the Play-Doh always remains Play-Doh, it's still rearranging itself. It's still shaping and shifting. So now, what is Maya? It is that material cause which always remains knowledge. But that knowledge is constantly reshuffling itself to obtain as the mountain and the subject and your brain and the heart, time and space and laws and gravity and magnetism and light and so on. So the difference, what is the difference here? Brahman is the material cause, but it doesn't undergo any change. And what is Maya? It is Parinami Upadana Karanam. What's the nature of Maya? It is knowledge and power. Why is it knowledge? Go back to the dream example. What is your dream entirely made of? Knowledge of the mind. Does anyone throw some, physical materials inside your dream? Where do you get those physical materials inside a dream? Where does that come from? It can be none other than your mind. Okay? Therefore, the materials come from, in that same way, come from knowledge. And why power? Well, if you just have knowledge of a tree, you need a certain power to put together a leaf, a branch, the seeds, the skin. You have a certain power, a certain initiative to move it, to rearrange that knowledge and make a tree what it is. Therefore, it is knowledge and power. Okay. So that's the first purpose of Maya's teaching, to show you how from an unchanging material cause can come a changing universe. The second is, Maya's teaching purpose is it wants to reconcile duality. If there is one, how do I account for differences? And the third example is, or reason is, if I am that limitless being, how on earth did I end up inside here? How did that happen? We have to explain that. The cautionary note is, you see, Maya tends to be very fascinating sometimes. And the irony is, if it turns out to be fascinating, it entangles you even further. So what is Maya? Like anything, like the Five Koshas, it is a stepping stone. It is a stepping stone to recognize all that is here is one without a second. But to arrive there, you need Maya. So keep this in mind. It's not something special to be fascinated about. It's just a teaching to help us see. So Maya is unmanifest. Avyakta namni. It says it is unmanifest. What does this word unmanifest mean for you? Maya is in seed form. So what does this mean before? What was then before the universe came of time and space? Because how do you define the universe? You define it as, or the jagat in Sanskrit, time, space, and everything in time and space. That's jagat. Jagat in Sanskrit is universe or world. So now the question is, let's accept this Big Bang provisionally. Suppose it was like that. Then what was before time and space? What did you just say? Seed. Now, not an actual seed, but that which was in unmanifest. That means time and space was still there, but just not actualized. It was not manifest as an actual time and space. So a good way to understand this, because if you go billions of years back, it's too much. So let's do it right now. What is 5 minutes from now? Is that manifest? No. Therefore, 5 minutes from now is Maya. Even 1 second from now is Maya. Now, in fact, this moment now was Maya 5 minutes ago. So thus you say, this is Maya, which has come to be manifest now. But the moment you say now, it's already gone, replaced by the new unmanifest converted into a manifest. So all that is here is Maya manifesting constantly from its unmanifest state. Unmanifest, manifest, unmanifest, manifest. It's so quick that to you, it's like one smooth movement. And whatever manifests 5 minutes from now, is it going to be totally disconnected or perfectly connected to now? It's going to be perfectly connected to now. You're not going to have a random event 5 minutes from now. That 5 minutes from now has a perfect connection to whatever has occurred right now. If we throw a party here, then 5 minutes from now, what will be there? A party. So that means we have introduced certain causes into Maya, and Maya has simply continued those causes for the next 5 minutes, and thus you have a party. From its unmanifest state to the manifest, what can we establish so far? That which manifests has a perfect relationship to what was unmanifest. It's one continuous, non-random manifestation. So is there such thing as randomness in this world? Is there such thing as accidents in this world? Is there such thing as unexplainableness in this world? No, because it is one continuous Maya that is unmanifesting, manifesting. And every one of those cycles is a perfect cause-effect relationship. So whatever is manifest right now, what do you call that? If Maya is the cause of the universe, and whatever is manifest right now, what is this moment right now? The effect. So what does this mean? Whatever inheres in the effects must thus be in the cause. So now how do I get to know Maya? Do I get to know Maya by one single object? Do I? No, because it's just one single manifestation. So then how do I get to know Maya? Because it's going to say it's inferred by its effects. How do I come to know Maya? Can I see Maya somewhere? No, I can only see her effects right now. And what are those effects? this moment, this very second. So she has come from, her state is unmanifest, and she turns into manifest. And how long has this unmanifest manifest been taking place? Anadi, since beginningless time. Even when time was not, Maya was there. So this unmanifest and manifest is constant. Thus we use in the Vedas this cyclical system. We don't have a linear system. Once upon a time, Big Bang, and it all began from then on. That doesn't exist. This is the Western system. The Vedic system is you cannot put a beginning to any one thing in this world. Find me, please, one thing in this universe, or one object, or anything that has a beginning and it lasts for 80 years. Find me one effect that lasts for 80 years. We call that a human birth. Because we often say, no, I cannot find one object in this universe that doesn't have a preceding cause. Like a tree. You look at a tree now, where is that tree from? A seed from its previous incarnation. And what has that previous incarnation learned, that tree? It's learned a lot of things, suppose. It's learned how to deal with the changing weather cycles. So whatever that tree in the previous incarnation has learned, and maybe to put its roots deeper into the ground, and to give, shinier, more smiley fruits, suppose, what's going to happen to its seed? It's going to inhere those learnings. And when the seed falls and it gives birth to a new tree, that tree is too going to give smiley, happier, deeper, rooty roots. Okay? So this means that tree that is here now is a perfect reflection of the kind of seeds from its previous incarnation. Now you too have a seed. We don't call it, we have a special name for it. We call that your karana sharira, your causal body, your sanchita karma. That is your seed. And because of your seed, which has inherent personality traits and characteristics from the previous incarnation, thus, what kind of a tree do you have now? You have the one that you know very well. See? So find me one effect in this universe that only has an 80-year lifespan. You can't do it. It's very strange, you see. We have no problem when we look at our physical bodies. We say, no, this body comes from genes. That's the seed of this physical body. No problem there. And the genes from parents come from their parents. So it's a perfect Passover. But when it comes to personality, the subtle body, we don't accept that. Just because we can't see the seed for the subtle body, we reject that. But because I can see the seed, just because it's scientific, by the physical body called genes, I accept that. Vedanta says, you cannot find one effect. Your personality is an effect without a preceding cause. And that preceding cause for your personality, I'm not talking about physical body, is what we call your karma, your past causes that you can't see, the seed. So by this you can infer there must have been a person or some character before this birth. Because you do come with a uniqueness, a certain personality, a certain strength, a certain kind of mental disposition. You do come that. So it implies it must have already been developed. Where? How do you have kids born and they're automatically brilliant at certain things? That's not a coincidence. So this is one way how we use logic to show that you cannot be born for the first time ever. So if the universe is an effect, what does that show about the universe? It must have a preceding cause. which we call Maya. And then Maya is ignorance, avidya. You know, when I was looking at this teaching, it confused me for a long time. How can Maya, which is all knowledge, be called ignorance? That's a contradiction. Yeah? So the reason for that is because Maya is not ignorance. You have to look at the implied meaning of this. Now, to explain this, we said Maya has two powers, avarana and vikshepa. Okay, so vikshepa Shakti, like your mind, is able to project that dream, use the knowledge in the mind and the memories and the impressions, and from that it just projects it into a physical, tangible world. That is vikshepa Shakti. Same thing with Maya. So vikshepa equals project. It takes knowledge and it just, by force, by power, it projects it outwards. So when we say here Maya is knowledge and power, this word power is really just vikshepa Shakti. Okay, because we call it Maya is sarvajna, sarva Shakti. Sarva means everything. That means all jna, knowledge, and all Shakti, power. So in other words, when it says sarva Shakti, it's referring to vikshepa Shakti, and sarvajna would both be vikshepa Shakti. That's much better. Knowledge and power, knowledge, all power. What happens with knowledge and all power? It gets projected. Now, we said avarana Shakti, from the standpoint of Maya, this avarana Shakti hides differences. So we'll just say this veiling. It veils one thing against the next in order to create differences. Is this very clear what it means to veil green to show the blue, veil the blue to show the red, veil bird flying features from the tiger in order to produce a tiger, veil meow from a dog in order to create a woof woof, and vice versa? Okay, so you have to hide certain features to create differences. This is just how you create differences. So now, when this veiling power, avarana Shakti, from the standpoint of Maya, it is a Shakti. It's just a power. But from the standpoint of a Jiva, this very power is avidya. So here it's at the macrocosm, it's a power. But from the microcosm, our level, it's a avidya. That's why you don't know knowledge about things, about basics like, mathematics and even walking or even how to say mama. You have to learn that. Yes?
Can you repeat the one with the dog and the cat? How does the veiling power?
Sure. So a dog and a cat are not entirely different. They both have four legs. So the knowledge of four legs is not hidden from both of them. But the idea of gentleness, for example, a cat is more graceful. That concept is hidden from a dog, and vice versa. And so, for example, dog's ability to smell. This is a better version. So they have a very high sensitive olfactory system. This system is very attuned and well designed for the dog. But it is not like that for us, for example, or maybe even for a cat. So this is how you create differences. You hide certain features. You hide the sexual organs for the female, and thus you create the female, and vice versa for the male. You cannot have both sexual organs. That would just be strange. So this is how you create this difference. Okay? Therefore, for the jiva, this very Shakti is avidya. So does this now mean that this avidya is trying to make you ignorant? Is it like intentionally saying, I'm going to make you ignorant of your nature and you're going to suffer? No. No. Because it's just innocently manifesting differences. And it just happens to hide who you are. It's not intentional. That's why we say it's kind of like a game. Now you have to, find back yourself. Yeah, that's how you create variety. That's why you say this Shakti is not only all knowledge, all power, but how do you describe it? Creative power of consciousness. Creative. That's why we call it creator. Because the creator, you just look up into the sky, you see so many colors and there's galaxies and the arrangement of it. It's like art, work of art, creative. And he's so high in creativity that he even infuses creativity, when I say he, I mean knowledge and power, is in your own mind, and you're able to create Velcro and Teflon and microwave and semiconductors and lovely works of art and music, whole industry of music and orchestra. You've been to an orchestra. I hope this is beautiful. When you have multiple individuals put together and they all are assigned for a specific purpose. They only have knowledge. I only have knowledge of the violin. You only have knowledge of the piano. You only have knowledge of the drums. And then we come together and we put our knowledge, our individual knowledge together. And what happens now? You have, with a conductor, of course, the laws and orders guiding us how to conduct our works in this world. The conductor saying, no, you're going out of tune, come back, and then you come back. But when you put all these knowledges together, you have an entire play. And we all think as an individual, you isolate one individual, you don't have much, you think you don't have much impact. In fact, you could kind of argue it's not much impact, but when you put them all together, it has this wow factor. So now, what is the Lord? The Lord is all knowledge, the ultimate wow. We can say wow to one person. I say wow, symphony. But I say mega wow, no justice to how wow the Lord is, how wow total knowledge, total power of the universe is. This is why he's the most worshipful, the most desired, the most treasured, the most cherished, the most loved.
Could you elaborate more in the ignorance? Because you few steps behind, you start talking about it all started, the projection, because of ignorance, but not ignorance, it was more like a relative ignorance. Was because I was thinking it, like if I am part of it, then I also project it. I'm also Maya, and in a way
Mini Maya.
So just not to exclude myself, otherwise I will feel very ignorant.
Yeah.
And then I said, how come I am in this situation now, projected by something? I have a part in it, I think. Maybe I help projecting because I wanted to experience myself in different forms.
Well, let me put a diagram to this. Maybe it will help. So we said Maya is an Adi. And we said previously that from Maya arises this projecting power. In fact, it is nothing but projecting power. We'll say Vikshepa, we'll stay true to the word, Vikshepa and Avarana. And you want to know about ignorance?
Yes.
Okay. So by the Vikshepa Shakti, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to create the world and the universe. So G for galaxy, W for world, and J for Jiva. So galaxy, world, and Jiva. Now, in the world itself, you have oak tree. Oak. One more tree? Pine. One more? Palm tree. Oak, pine, and palm tree. Now, oak tree, at some level, they have a similarity. They are a jati, they are a category of a tree. They're not a bush. So at some level, they share similar characteristics. But on other level, they produce different kinds of features. There's a slight feature change. So features are different. And amongst those features, for instance, the palm tree, it's a coconut. And then a banana tree produces a banana. Okay? So they're still fruits. They're still a jatis of fruits. But even within the fruits, you have different skin color. And then you have different seeds. For example, an avocado, big seed. Now, even how that seed or that skin color, its rate of absorption of the sun, that too is slightly different. Size. How much water does it store? What temperature does it thrive under? At what tropics, the north or the southern hemisphere? So the point is, you see the differences? They're all jatis, category, category, category. So they're, at one point they share similarity, on the other they share differences. Now, of course, there's a vast amount of intelligence to keep track of all this. Because avocado is always going to be avocado. It will never accidentally be a banana. Okay. Now, that is how Avarana Shakti, we're focusing on this now, that is how Avarana Shakti splits these jatis and creates small features. Now, that same Avarana Shakti, when it operates on a human being, same thing. You have a female and you have a male. Difference. But that Avarana Shakti also works at the level of your mind, obviously. So it will hide certain things from you. It will hide what you know. And thus you have to go mama. Mama, and you have to learn this. Now, M-A-M-A, so we take it for granted. We had to learn what and then put together ma. And then associate ma to someone that is in my close proximity. So why do I not know ma upon birth? Because I'm veiled. My mind, consciousness, my mind is veiled. Because it's veiled, it has to unveil. And how do you unveil? You feed the buddhi that which opposes ignorance. And that is knowledge. Now, we spend how long acquiring knowledge on things other than the self? Anadi. Anadi. And so one day you have to say, so there's one little section here in the buddhi, and it's always calling me, it's always driving me to do something more. No matter what I do, it says more. Until one day I solve that and I feed it, that which opposes ignorance in nature, about the nature of the buddhi, the nature of the individual, the true nature of Maya, which is nothing but awareness and consciousness. So all my life I've been focusing on mithya. And so I have to find out the truth of mithya to solve the problem. So what is Avarana Shakti? It just means simply, I don't know. Does this answer?
Yeah, gives
A bit more.
more perspective, definitely.
Okay, so let's continue after break. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.